everybody has a purpose, right? Everybody has a purpose. But when you are of purpose, you are literally held accountable for everything you do.
Wow.
That's on and off the books. And when I mean on and off the books, I mean when you are serving your purpose publicly or to whatever audience God has called you to be, but also you're held accountable for what you don't do. Because you can
Yeah.
tell when somebody is authentic about their purpose. You know,
Yeah.
we can use rappers just in general, right? Like for the best example, you got rappers that will literally just be in the studio talking about a whole bunch of jazz they heard somebody else talking about. But when somebody has literally lived that and now they're finding that I can articulate what through my purpose, I can articulate the things that I've experienced in my life through music. You feel it, you hear it, you can almost relate to it if it's
Yeah.
close to you, but it can't be mimicked. You can just tell. And you are one of those people of purpose. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Candace Penn. I have known Candace since the sandbox. And I've been able to, like, there's certain people that you remember when you're a kid. It's like, oh yeah, she used to always do this. She used to always play with paint. She used to always, scratch me or whatever. Candace has always danced. And it's not just her ministry, it's just her life. It's like the way that she communicates. And if you're in a place where you understand how people communicate, it's not always through talking. Sometimes it's through fashion, how people wear their clothes. Sometimes it's, business, the products that they make. But when you see Candace, you understand that her gift is in her dance. But when you really get to know her, you get all of the things that we're talking about. And you're able to take the appreciation for her dance to the next level because it's like you feel it. And now you're a part of it because now you know this is how she communicates.
Well, first, I appreciate you allowing me to speak on this platform. We go way back. Whenever we talk, we talk. It's never a general conversation. We always have like these in-depth. It's always been that way since the day I met her. It's always been in-depth conversations that get to the core. Conversations of substance. I value that because so many people are having these airy conversation. I hate little general conversation. I'm like, let's talk about something that got some meat and some bones. Let me learn something from you. You learn something from me. Yeah. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you allowing me to talk about the Candace Erin movement. Like I said, I'm a 4-time award-winning choreographer. I choreograph and I am a dance instructor. I'm about honing in artists and creating artists that are whole and that are mentally, spiritually, and physically strong, fit, and trained technically wise as well with dance, because I am a technical trained dancer. I've danced with the greatest of the greatest, the creme de la creme of this area and of Southern California as well too, darling, and of Africa, because they imported some people for us to learn some things, in Brazil. So in Spain. I want to take everything that I've learned and put that into my artists. On a lighter note, with the Candace Erin movement, I do work with dance ministries. I do work and come and dance at your church if you ask me to. I do work with couples and for their wedding. I've done surprise flash mobs. I've done first dances. I've done the bridesmaids and the bride surprising the groom. I've done the groomsmen and the bridesmaids surprising the wedding
bride and groom.
Bride and the groom, which that was really hard, but yeah, I've done people surprising their grandfather. All their sons wanted to do something for their dad, and it was his surprise birthday party. And I've worked with all the men in the family, and I did something. So I do creative movement for toddlers and infants. So I work with all ages, all dance backgrounds. You can have 2 left feet. There's a dancer in everyone. That's the Candace Erin movement. I'm a model, I'm an actress, and I'm a motivational life booster. I don't like to say a motivational speaker, a life booster. I like to pour into people to help boost their life. It sticks. Yeah. When it's a motivational speaker, you hear it, and then it's like sometimes it sticks, sometimes it may. I'm giving you that boost so that you can continue to move forward in your life. Underneath the Candace Erin movement, I have what's called Just Jete. Just leap into your goals, just leap into your destiny, leap into the impossible, just Jete. Jete means to leap. It's a dance terminology. It's an activewear and dance wear line. We right now are getting ready to launch our fall line. Man, oh man, I'm excited about this fall line. It's going to be awesome. I have some new things up my sleeve with it. It hasn't even been a year since I've launched Just Jete, so I'm super excited. It will be a year on January 15th.
Awesome.
If you don't know that date, then you need to go Google it. I'm not telling you what that date is. That date has so many significant values on so many layers. It's several things. So Just Jete, yes, awesome. And Candace Erin, the Candace Erin movement. So yeah, that is pretty much everything right now.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is a whole lot. But I'm grateful, man. God is good. I asked him to expand my territory, and he's definitely done it.
So. Enlarge that territory for me, Lord. Yeah. That's a prayer. I don't think most people understand the power behind it, because it's not going to happen instantly. It might happen instantly for you, but it's not going to happen instantly. It's literally going to be like, okay, but are you ready? It's going to get to that point where you're going to be like, oh, okay. Am I ready?
And even when it's like am I ready? Because I remember praying that prayer and God was like, okay, are you ready? And then he did it. And then I was like, wait. Holla. I'm not ready. Wait. And he's like, wait, I got you. Yeah. I'm gonna help you through this. And it's like, okay, cool. Because when you're getting calls about your personal stuff that you do, because Candace Erin is me. So you're getting calls about that, and then you get calls about this, and then you get calls about that. It's like,
exactly.
What am I doing? Sunday. I thought we said Sunday was the day I wasn't gonna do anything.
Nope.
I thought it was that day. He was like, but you said expand your enlarge it.
Exactly.
If people knew, like, imagine if it was a sticky note for every thought that you had, and it just automatically printed out, and it was the sticky note. If people knew the thoughts that we had on a regular basis, like, we would nobody would be considered sane. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a constant, like, God, clear my heart. Like, I mean, earlier today, I was like, oh, did I really just think that? Like, did I really just have this thought pertaining to a situation? Like, that's jacked up. But then the reality of understanding that I'm just a human being. I'm just a person. I'm flawed. I'm stank. I'm trifling. But if it wasn't for Christ, I wouldn't be okay. Like, I would be in an insane asylum. Like, this I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to be, because I'm so flawed. And then being able to empathize with other people and have understanding, like, well, dag, if I'm thinking this way, and if I'm moving this way, and I have Christ, you don't even have Christ, and you're moving a certain type of way, and it makes you like say, Dad, I gotta forgive you, because I'm just as trifling as you. And the only difference is the fact that I have Christ, and I'm able to be like, God, help me, because my mind ain't right. Like, and my heart is not okay. And this person hasn't been introduced to Christ. I understand the value of being able to, like, witness to people. Like, even if it's something as small as just saying, like, you know, God's got you, or I'm praying for you. Like, and that's still witnessing to a person, not witnessing is people always take it as like, oh, you gotta go into a whole full on, like, God loves you. And like, you don't have to preach. It can be as simple as like, yo, I'm praying for you. You just planting a seed that somebody else is gonna come and water, And you might be the person that waters it later on, but like, it's just understanding that I'm just this flawed and I need God. Like, and also releasing control. That is so difficult.
It is.
Releasing the controls to be able to move forward, because I'm ready to move on my terms. Like, I'm like, you said X, Y, and Z, and X, Y, and Z is here. And I'm like, boom, let's go. And it's like, nah. And then something comes up and I'm like, I literally, this is so wild. I just had this moment earlier this week where I was like, God, I thank you that you didn't allow certain things to happen. And I understand the timing of it now, because I can't imagine if I was dealing, like, if I had these things right here in place, the things that I wanted, and then I kept looking at you like, why is this not happening? Like, what in the world is going on? Why aren't you doing? I mean, like, a matter of months ago, I was just saying, how come this wasn't happening? And now I'm like, God, I thank you that it's not happening, because I don't even want that to be, that would be a major issue with it. You know what I'm saying? Like a major, so I'm just like, dang, your timing, you know the timing, you know how it's supposed to be. Okay, so I need to really work on my patience. Like, I thought I had patience. Like, I'm patient with people, and it's like, nah, you need to learn how to be patient with me as well too. And be patient with what I'm doing in your life and how I'm moving through your life, because I know what you're getting ready to face. And I am like, okay, you blocking stuff on my behalf and on other people's behalf, because
girl,
child, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not.
All. And that's probably been my week in a nutshell. Like, when I say things literally flipped in a day. And the crazy part is, I didn't know it was coming, but I was prepared for it.
Ooh.
As bad as it was.
Yeah.
I mean, when I say ground moved from beneath me, like, now I'm on pins and needles because of what happened. But I have peace being on pins and needles because I know God prepared me for it. You know what I'm saying? And even the preparation process, God's preparation process, from what I've learned, is never fully detailed. There's no full disclosure. It's always like, here's an idea. You have peace about the idea. Move on it. It's like every day you're encouraged by it. It's like, oh, let me go do this. Let me add to it. Let me, sneak in a couple hours. If I didn't do it yesterday, let me add, a couple little whatever. And it's just like, you get so ambitious about it. So you're like, okay, I'm ready for this joint to explode. I'm ready for this joint to go full throttle. And then something happens and it's like, did this just really happen? Like, I didn't see this coming. And now that it's here, you have to trust that you were prepared to not just face it, but get past it and keep doing what you were already on course to do. It probably has nothing to do with the issue that just happened, And it's like, I have just spiritually, I feel myself getting mature by the experience, not by the day, but by the experience. And I feel like where I would be pulling my hair out if this happened 2 years ago, I'm now in a position to say, God already knew this was going to happen and he prepared me for it. And I'm okay with it. And this is where it comes, where when you were talking about praying for somebody, this is where this comes into play, because the person that did it to me has no clue how bad it affected me. They don't care. They were in it for themselves. So the action that occurred, or what they did to me, I have no way to defend myself because of how they laid it out. It's like, when it happened on Wednesday, I felt like I was on trial. I really felt like there was a judge in front of me and she was the prosecution, and she was just laying it out. She was laying it out. And I got so caught off guard and choked up that it was like I couldn't even respond. So after the fact, I was like, "Ooh, hold up. Did I just get hit in the face and not defend myself? Like, how do I recover from this?" And that's where the thoughts come in. I could have said this. I could have, you know what? I could go back and say this. I can make sure she feels this type of way because of what she did to me. Like, I was planning and I had to check those thoughts. So that sticky note comment, like, it's crazy.
Listen.
Things that will come to your, or you, and you have to understand how to not allow yourself to meditate those thoughts, but to really go back and say, you know what, God, you have to be in my, I have to have your thoughts. I have to swap these out for your thoughts. So even if it's just a song that you have to sing to yourself or a scripture you have to say over and over again to get from those thoughts, that's what you have to do, because your mind is so powerful, man.
Listen,
Like,
I overstand being publicly humiliated on multiple occasions, and then not only being publicly humiliated on multiple occasions, but they happen back to back, like consecutively, like in a matter of months. Like 2 months it was one thing, and then like 2 or 3 months went past, and then it was something else, and it was, like you said, laid out where it was like you had no way to defend yourself. All you can do is just be like, well, like literally.
Yes.
Well, and then, I mean, being slandered, my name, like dragged in the mud, up and down the East Coast, West Coast, South Side, and then some, in and out, for that to happen, and feeling like the lowest of lows. And I'm just saying this to encourage you, because where the enemy will take you to be publicly humiliated, God will put you on a platform to be publicly praised.
Yes.
On so many, like in a way that you can't even fathom, where it's like it makes people check the integrity of the person that decided to humiliate you versus the person that they decided to humiliate, because no one was checking my integrity. And it was like, dang, when have I ever shown you X, Y, and Z and QR? Like, when have I ever shown you these traits? Now, you know what? I will take responsibility for my role and my actions that I played in both situations. Even though the other person was wrong, I never was like, and they're this and they're that. I just was like, no, but I'll take responsibility for my role, because in the end, I did play a role in it. I didn't play a full role in both things, but I played a role. Not enough that it didn't cause for reasoning for that. You shouldn't have never done that. 2 separate situations, 2 separate people, like and honestly, it was like 3 that dragged me. And then to turn around, and it took a while, and it was hard. It was hard to get through it, because some people wouldn't let it go, and it kept going. The shade was happening when you walk into a room. This is before COVID. So when you walk into the room, the shade was happening, people whispers and stuff like that. And it was like, dang, I gotta hold on to my confidence, because I know who I am, and I know who God created me to be, and I know what I did. I know the role that I played, but I also know what I didn't do. So why am I going to put my head down for things that I didn't do, based on the lies that were said about me, based on somebody like adding to, like over exaggerating whatever and adding to it? Okay, cool. I'll speak my piece, but then that's it. And when I say speak my piece, I'm only taking ownership on my part. I'm not dragging nobody else's name into it, even though I can listen. I got receipts on people for receipts on receipts and receipts. I can write more than a whole series on a whole lot of folk and spread all the business, but I'm not that type of person. I'm not going to take your name and drag it in the mud the way you did. For years later, for God to put me on a platform, on several different platforms, and people give me praise, and then or put me in a position where my integrity was tested, and what they said I was doing or how I was moving, it never came out. And I totally forgot about it. Totally forgot about it until someone came to me and was like, so-and-so was not right.
Yeah.
And then their stuff started unpeeling. Their
Yep.
actions started to unpeel, and it was like, he they on some. And I just was like, God, you got it. I mean, vengeance is mine, said thus save the Lord. And you we want that thing to happen, because listen, I was about ready to be like, shorty, you want to pull them cards?
Yeah.
Let's go. We can pull some cards, because I got receipts, but the tit for tat is no reason. All for them to later call me, both parties, to later call me separate occasions and apologize.
Yeah.
And be like, I was in this space and that space and da 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 da. And I forgave them, still forgive them. You staying over there.
Right.
Because now I know when you at a low space, you gonna move a certain type of way. But so I just say that to encourage you and any other person that, like, the best vengeance is you keeping your posture and adjusting your crown. Like, the best vengeance ever, and allow yourself to feel what it is that you're feeling, but deal with it and unpack it in the midst of all of that, like in private or with people that you can really trust, or in therapy. I'm an advocate for people, especially our Black community. Get in therapy. Listen, between Jesus and therapy. That's how I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah. It's crazy that you said exactly what you said in regard to what the enemy meant for you to be publicly humiliated about. God is going to promote you and bless you publicly on a different platform. And that was literally how I woke up this morning. That was the thought he gave me this morning before I opened my eyes. It's amazing how, I don't know if this is relative to anybody else, but God always speaks to me right before I'm about to wake up. It's like right at that moment where I'm teetering between the subconscious and my dreams to I distinctly hear the words of God. It's no filter, it's no muffle, it's not a whisper, it's literally like I'm hearing you. So and I think this needs to be said publicly also. It's God talking to you when you have peace. That's it. It's like
no question.
It's no question. Like, you can hear the most outrageous things said to you, like, Anita, go build an ark. And if I have peace about it, I know it's God. I don't have to
build an ark.
And it takes time to get to that point. It takes time to really not second guess yourself when you're wanting to hear from God. That's another thing. So God led me to 1 Peter chapter 2 this morning. I'm going to share it with you when we get off the interview, but it's literally talking about how Jesus was a stone that the builders rejected, but the whole time he was the foundation of what they were, the people that rejected him, he was the foundation of what they were supposed to build upon. The whole time they rejected their own foundation. And it made me think about, there's no humiliation that I will ever face that's worse than what Jesus did, because his was for an eternal purpose. Like, it was for people before and after him and while he was alive. And he knew that. And he had to, as a human being, internalize that at some point. And I think that what we don't see a lot of in the Bible is how much time Jesus spent alone and in meditation and in prayer. And there's certain instances where he went to the wilderness. He went off to be by himself, and people followed him. When he fed the 5,000 plus, he was trying to be by himself. People followed him. And that's the thing about leadership. And that's really what I want to touch on. Being a woman of purpose, a Black woman of purpose.
I am a Black woman. My shade of brown is Black.
Listen, if you don't believe it, her family will tell you, because I love her family. Her family is like 120% authentically Black. I remember hanging out with people. Listen, and just feeling that rhythm of Blackness. Like, I remember having sleepovers with you, and all of your dolls were Black.
Yes.
And you didn't open the boxes.
No. You was like, no. I collected. In fact, they're in storage. Yeah. I still have them. They're in storage.
I was like, this is some Black girl stuff.
Yes, I grew up in a household where my mom, the dolls had to either be Black or Latina. They couldn't be there were no Caucasian dolls. And it wasn't because of the races. My mom's thing was, I want you to play with things that look like you. Yeah. I want you to be surrounded with things that look like you, which is really interesting. Even my books, if I don't know if you recall, most of my books had Black, were written by Black people. The illustration was Black. People in the illustration, and then there was books that had like illustration that it had some white people that were included as well too, but it was Black people in there.
Yeah,
they didn't play. My parents didn't play with they were very clear with making sure that I knew who I was, because I was so light skinned and so fair skinned. My mom, I remember having a conversation with her recently because she wrote a book that's coming out really soon.
Awesome.
Yes. Parenting Behind Closed Doors by Leslie Wilmer. Little plug in there. Little plug. That's
what it's for.
Very soon. But we had a conversation about how my mom is like your skin complexion. And then she has these light-skinned babies. And though my brother is darker than I am, I was fair, and then my hair texture is a little. I have a mixed blend, of a hair texture. People are like, "Oh, you got good hair." What is good hair? Define that, okay?
Exactly.
Because even though you might feel like my edges are laying, they cannot hold a braid. Okay, they slip and slide, but the center though will hold a braid, honey. It will lock up and all kinds of stuff. But so I have a mixed texture of hair, and she was very clear about, she wanted to make sure when I was at school that, if someone was to say anything other than, are you Black? I was able to identify and say, no, I am a Black little girl. I am, a Black young lady, and be confident in that. And then knowing my culture and knowing who I am, because society will, knock you off your feet.
Whoa. You know what? I never looked at it from that perspective. Because you are lighter in complexion as a Black woman, I had a different experience because I was darker, and I was always around light-skinned people. Like my mom is, her family is, my dad's side, we really didn't interact with them as much, but they're all darker. So my friends were like, you were my best friend growing up, when we were little kids. So I never valued my skin complexion until
now that I think about our friend circle, it was only you and one other P. You and P that were, the rest of us were of a fair skin. Okay.
And so the media had a role in that too, because Black hair and Black skin was not celebrated the way it is now.
Right.
You had your little bits and pieces. You had your Moesha, you had your Laura Winslow, but when you looked at the videos, the favorited woman, the woman that was right next to the singer or the rapper was light skinned, right? And growing up at 15, 16 years old, that is so impressionable, right? And it's just like, I'm the backup dancer. I'm the only one that got her butt out because I'm thicker or whatever. I don't know. Whatever the psyche was. Yeah. Like, and I used to do this, and I never told anybody why, but I used to ask guys, like, even if they were my friends or a crush or whoever, I was like, oh, who's your dream girl? And it was always somebody like Maya or Megan Good. It's always somebody of a lighter complexion, Sanaa Lathan. I'm like, well, what about Gabrielle Union? But I used to do these experiments because I was trying to find the value in my skin complexion.
Wow.
And it was just, and here's a pet peeve that I have. And I don't know if you can attest to this as a light-skinned girl, but dark-skinned girl, it is a pet peeve when I hear a man say, oh, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl.
Yes, that is a major issue. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And I remember a friend of mine who is dark-skinned that got upset with me because she's like, why is it making you feel uncomfortable when it was directed towards me? And I said, because I'm not that type of female. I'm the type of woman where no matter your shade of brown, no matter who your background, your ethnicity, we are all queens.
Yeah.
So when somebody disrespects a queen in our queendom, that's an issue for me. I feel it as if he said that to me. Like it bothers me. And I genuinely feel that way. She didn't understand. She was like, what? Like, girl, I ain't even all that upset. And I'm like, nah, I'm mad. Like, what's up? What we about to do? Like, that's not okay. You want to let them just say that to you? Like, what you mean by that for a dark-skinned girl that you, because go ahead. That's the issue. That's the issue of mine. And I actually had it's funny because I've talked about this on like my Instagram live about how I had a complex about my skin, and I still am working through it because any moment that the sun is out, I'm like, I need to sit in the sun because I need to get darker because, you know, I'm the one that takes the bullets out of the gun. I'll crack the jokes about my forehead. I'll crack the jokes about my skin tone. Like, I'm, you know, because you ain't going to do it. If you do it, I'm going to throw a shoe at you. But I'm going to do it. So, and those were two major insecurities for me. I've always wanted to be darker. I couldn't understand. I didn't like, how come I can't? My brother can sit in the sun for like 2 minutes and he's like golden. And it's like the perfect, I'm like, dang, you like a perfect French fry or toasted bun. Like, I can't be like that. I sit in the sun and then I like turn red, and then 2 days later I get a little bit of a tan. And my mom's like, did you put on sunscreen? I'm like, yeah, I put on sunscreen and tanning lotion and then sunscreen again. I don't understand. I mean, so much so to the point where when I lived in California, I had a moment where it was a not so bright moment, so don't judge me. I put Vaseline on and went and sat by the pool with a mirror.
Lord.
I was tomato red. But 2 days later, I had the best tan of my life. I never tan like that ever again. But I had an issue with my skin complexion. I've always wanted to be darker. Because it was always like, oh my God, you're so light, you're so light, you're so light, you're so light, you're so light. You're so light. I'm one of the lightest ones in my family. Like we have some light-skinned people, but it's like myself and like my aunt and uncle. That's it. And they're older. So it's kind of like, you know.
Yeah. Oh man, this journey of being a Black woman. I feel like that's where this conversation is just like, I was reading W.E.B. Du Bois, Souls of Black Folk, and I haven't read the book all the way because I always get stuck on this one chapter where he talks about how Black people wear the veil. We are two dog souls in one body, meaning we literally turn it on and off all the time. We're desiring to be as Black as we are, but we're also conscious of how threatening our Black is. And it's all the time. Yep. It's all the time. It's all the time. And it's something that we always, and when we're not in an element of understanding how to balance them, which is something that you have to learn, right? Any kind of rift will throw things off course. So let's just say you're a Black girl in corporate America and you're in a situation where you're the only Black girl in the room and you get tested or you get proven wrong. And it's like, okay, so do I act super Black or do I act super humble and super like, what do I do? Because I don't want to be threatening.
Right.
And I don't want to be insubordinate, but at the same time, I got to stand my ground because I know what I know.
Right.
You know, so
and that happens in life period as Black people, when we're amongst other cultures, the reality of it, and I'm gonna say it, and somebody might disagree with me, and you're entitled to your opinion, but this is just mine. The reality of it is that outside of the Black culture, and people are like, dang, she didn't say the brown culture. Yeah, no, I didn't include that. Sorry. I mean, it's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. But what I've noticed, how about I say that? What I've noticed outside of the Black culture, we're consistently tested in that way, where it's like, how do we respond? And no response is necessarily the right response. So leaning where your representative, that's what, you know, we all know who our representative is, the person that who we present, that has it all put together, who speaks well, who speaks clear, who has a smile on their face, their posture is just right, and they're accommodating, and their attitude is just great. Right. Then you have you. And what you really feel behind the representative. And that's where people are like, you're being too Black. And that's, you know, or you cross that boundary. So I feel like it doesn't matter how you respond. Neither one of those responses are necessarily the right response, because they have already classified you as who they've classified you as. So it's like, even if you give the representative, you still in that classification, and then if you don't give the representative, you just prove the classification to be correct. So it just, that's where I'm starting to feel like someone said, I don't want to quote who said it though, because I have my own opinion towards this particular person, even though I admire their movements and what they say. But someone said, that's famous, said that they stopped code switching. They made it very clear, like, as they got higher up and more famous and started to be put in rooms with people of like some serious stature, not just the record deal or whatever. Like, you putting people, you're in a room with investors with old money, not just new money. People that have the behind the scenes, that own corporations for 30 plus years and etc. They said that they didn't want to code switch. They didn't want to change who they were to accommodate someone else and make them feel comfortable. And I'm starting to get into a posture where I'm like, I'm not going to change who I am to accommodate you. Exactly. I'm going to be who I am, but that requires you to know who you are. And you're constantly evolving and you're constantly changing. So if you're in a consistent movement of evolving, you got to spend time with yourself. What kind of doubles back to what you were saying about people don't know how much time Jesus spent by himself. And knowing you got to separate yourself to learn who you are. And it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to separate yourself to learn who you are so that you are confident in who you are as you're consistently changing, to step in a room where people don't look like you, don't have the background that you have, never experienced anything that you have experienced, not even an inkling of it, and then be confident in what you're saying. And they're going to test your intelligence. They're going to test your integrity. They're going to test your emotions and your, they're going to try you. To be able to withstand that, you got to separate yourself to do it. Especially as Black women and Black men.
I think that's so on point, because that's what our students need to hear. That's what anybody needs to hear, honestly, especially if you're Black. But our students need to hear that, because as they transition from being in school, whether it's high school or college, those jobs are going to put you to the test, right? And please interrupt me if you want to attest to the pivots that we take in life. You can have a game plan for your life. We commend you. We want you to have a game plan for your life. That means that you're critically thinking about the decisions that you want to make to get to a place, whether it's entrepreneurship or you want to rise to the ranks in a corporation, whatever. But there are going to be moments where things are going to happen that you didn't expect. Life secret, just told. I mean, seriously. And you have to understand how to pivot. But the key part of pivoting, and this is what I'm learning at 30 something years old, the key part of pivoting is literally what you just said, knowing yourself.